Just demonstrate a couple of apps for you so you get a sense of, when you're targeting the Windows platform, how do you really differentiate your app from others? Well, first off, this is the main start screen in Windows 8. I'm running this is an Asus ZenBook Prime Touch, so it's got a touch screen. I can see all my apps. I can easily scroll through them with touch. I can pinch zoom, and this way I can see all the different categories that I've defined. If I want to run an application, let's say I want to go to the Microsoft Store, I simply touch it, or of course I could click it with the mouse. One other interesting thing about the platform is everything within Windows is still fully functional with keyboard and mouse, but we've made it also a very, very good touch-first experience. So now I'm in the store, and if I was interested in purchasing Halo Spartan Assault, I could go in here and I could check it out. I could see the different screenshots. I could look at reviews and so on, and I could choose to purchase it, which in this case I already have, so it knows that. Now, if I'm an app developer, one of the things I might want to do is make sure that the tile itself is providing value to the user. So you can have what's called a live tile. And there's a couple examples here. You see some tiles updating with the different images. You can see the store tile is telling me that I have an update. So these are things that you as a developer can take advantage of. The user could choose to turn that off or turn it on at any time. But it's something that if you are providing, let's say, status of your game, you might want to list what the recent high score is, or maybe if it's a multiplayer game, that you might want to tell the user it's their turn. It's a chess game. The person you've been playing with has made their move. Now it's their turn to go in and play the game. So you could actually do that without the app actually running. So it's pretty powerful. Another thing that you can do is you can provide different tile sizes. So on Windows 8, we give you the option of a wide tile or a standard 150 by 150 tile. It's another way you can differentiate. The wide tile is optional, but so you supply that if you want to provide that capability for the user. Now let's see. Let's go here. So this is the All Recipes application. So this just gives you an example of sort of the design language that we are promoting with Windows 8. It starts with it being chromeless, right? So what that means is you're not seeing any decoration, let's say operating system window decoration here, right? Traditionally in Windows, if you were opened a window on Windows 7 on the desktop, there would be an edge to the window. There would be minimize and open and close buttons in the upper right-hand corner. There might be a menu across the top. There's a lot of stuff going on in this window. Here, the philosophy is content is king. Content of the app is the centerpiece. And so you see very vivid images being used. The user is guided through this application. They navigate through it by the use of typography. So really nice looking fonts, different sizes mean different things. I'm interested in recipes that deal with bacon. All right, so I know I can just click on that. I can touch that. And now I'm seeing all the recipes that match that particular category. If I want to go back, I can see in the upper left-hand corner, little breadcrumb arrow. I know that I can navigate back to the main screen. So there's a lot more to that design language. We refer to that as modern app design. I think initially when we released it, we referred to it as Metro design. But now it's modern app design, and if you go to design.windows.com, there's a great deal of documentation on this design language. It's guidance on how to make a really beautiful application on Windows. Some of the other things this app demonstrates is the integration with the operating system itself. So I just swiped from the right-hand side. I brought in what's called the charms bar. So this is also capability. As a developer, you have access to this platform features from your application. So for example, search. If I click on search, what you'll notice is the search flyout panel comes in. And all recipes is selected by default. So when I do a search now, I'm going to be searching all recipes. But you can see that there are a number of other applications that have registered themselves with Windows and are making themselves available for search. But if I was interested in cookies, in all recipes, that search is now being, that search query was just passed to the application, and the application then decides how it wants to deal with it. So any application can tie into the search capability that's built in to the operating system. Simply registers itself as a search target when the user types in terms. So your application could do that. All right, so you could just tie into that feature. And the same with sharing. So this says this app can't share. All right, so this app hasn't implemented this feature. But what you could do in an app that would share is it might say, I'd like to share whatever information's on the screen, in which case, it might be interesting to see if I go into a particular recipe, if it allows me to share. There we go. So now that I'm on a particular recipe, it says, in all recipes, the user says, I want to share this recipe. Well, what comes up are all the applications that have registered with Windows that support sharing as a share target. So all recipes doesn't know how to share with Mail, doesn't know how to share with OneNote or SkyDrive. The operating system knows how to do that. All recipes simply saying, I want to take this information, which is this recipe, and share it out. And the user gets to choose where they share it. So that's another way that you can differentiate your app on the platform, take advantage of search and share. Now, all recipes, that's a great example of an HTML5 application. That was built in HTML5 and JavaScript for Windows. An example of a game that's built in HTML5 and JavaScript is Cut the Rope. So it's a popular game. It's on all platforms. It's available in the browser. What this team did is they took their HTML5 and JavaScript code, and in about 2 weeks they had it running on Windows 8, very early on in the beta timeframe. So, just to give you a sense of, the kind of performance that you can get. I'm going to embarrass myself and try to play this game here. So. There we go. 2 out of 3. It's okay. There you go. But that's HTML5 and JavaScript. Pretty performant. That's because whether you're building in C++, C#, or HTML5 and JavaScript, there's a common runtime for all those languages. Now, you can actually build, and you can get closer to the metal and go C++ native, in which case you are not leveraging that common language runtime. But for most cases, for most applications and games, that's actually quite sufficient from a performance perspective. If you're writing something like Halo Spartan, then you're probably, and you're doing 3D modeling and things of that sort, you're going to be right on the metal with C++. Here's an app that's written in C#. This is Cocktail Flow. So this is just also showing you, that design language that I talked about earlier. It's guidelines. As a developer, you get to decide how you want to implement that particular, you take that guidance and apply it to your app. But here's an example where we've got this really just beautiful, immersive application. Looks great on that big screen. And maybe you're interested in how you make this particular drink. You see the nice animations, fantastic imagery, and it's very fast. And when this first came out, we would refer to apps like this as fast, fluid, immersive, and beautiful. That's really at the core of the philosophy of that design language. This is a game that's built in C#. Not seeing all the power of this, but you get a sense of what this is. Let's go. One more. I've lost. All right. Very sad. But the point is, you can build apps, you can build games in your language of choice. Now, we make that possible, as I said earlier, because we have this common runtime, WinRT, Windows Runtime. And on top of that, you have your choice of language, C or C++, C# or Visual Basic, HTML, and JavaScript. There is something called XAML, Extensible Application Markup Language. That is the language that you would combine with C or C++ or C# or Visual Basic that does the layout of the UI. So you can think of it as equivalent to HTML with JavaScript, XAML with C#. That's the same relationship there. So what I want to show you now is, if you were interested in getting started to build an application for Windows, what do you need? Well, I'm going to start with Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is the development tool. Your students, so you have access to Visual Studio at Professional at no cost through our DreamSpark program. So if you're not signed up at DreamSpark, please do. In fact, in the Applied Sciences and Engineering department, you actually have your own DreamSpark Premium, and you have a web store. Does this class know all about that? They plugged into that?
They don't, but they do now.
They do now. Beautiful. So I don't know what the URL is to the Harvard web store, but if you go there, you can get access to all of our products at no charge. We make that available to students. So you're in Visual Studio. You want to get started. Well, I'm going to go ahead and click New Project. And the first thing you'll see is the way that we've organized the templates is by language. So I've got Visual C# here, but there are other languages, and I can expand that. And I could see here's JavaScript. So if I wanted to build an app for the Windows Store in HTML5 and JavaScript, I could start with one of these templates. Right? Let's say a grid app. I'm going to say, OK, I want to get started. I want to build an app that's based on that grid layout that I saw with all recipes. It was very similar to Cocktail Flow. I want an app that sort of looks like that. Get started with that template. So now it's going to generate that solution. It's going to give you essentially all the scaffolding for that application. And by default, these templates use what we call model view, view model. So it's a variation on model view controller. But the idea is that model view, that's the user interface layout that's done in XAML or be done in HTML and CSS. And then there's the view model. That's the data that you want to bind to your user interface controls. All right. So that's sounded by what David had said earlier at the beginning of the class, that you are familiar with model view controller. So model view, view model will feel very comfortable. Same concept. So here I am. I've generated this HTML5 and JavaScript Windows Store application. I'm going to go ahead and just run it on the local machine. See what I get for free. Starts up. This is the default splash screen. Here's an area you're going to want to have some focus on, right? Having a great looking splash screen is key. Now the app is running. So by default, you get a template that's laying out some pseudo information in groups. And if I were to click onto a group header, I would see this view, which is showing me the items within that group. Or I could click on a specific item, and now I'm looking at that specific item. So this is all placeholders for the data that is going to light up your application, right? So you can see this is certainly not ready for the store, but all the scaffolding is in place, the navigation is in place. What you need to now do is come in, apply design, and bring in the data of your application. That's going to be something I'll focus on when I talk about using these open data APIs. But the bottom line is you get a pretty functional starting place for your applications.